Hello and welcome to another episode of Nerd Age where we discuss everything nerdy. My name is Mick and with me as always are my co-hosts Josh.
What's up?
Corey.
Hello.
And Jonah.
Howdy.
Welcome to the show, guys. It's going to be a fun one today. We're going to talk about Moonknight episode 2. Moonknight.
A very fun one.
Why is it called Moonknight, Jonah?
I don't know. So why is it called Moonknight? The Egyptians didn't have knights. He's not been knighted by the queen. It should be called Moon Guy.
Moon Guy?
Yeah. Moon Dude.
But more accurately, Moon Guys.
What are the
Moon Guys, yeah.
What do the Egyptians call their warriors?
I don't
Probably
know.
just more like Moon Warrior.
Yeah,
is
something
what
like
it
that.
probably
Moon
should
Knight?
be.
I mean,
Moon Warrior doesn't sound as cool.
Yeah, no, it's true.
not as cool as Moon Guy.
Moon Guy. Yeah, this episode of Moon Guy. You know what I'm going to say about this episode? It was just not as good as the first one. I would say it was kind of it was kind of weird. I think it was shot weird. It's kind of my big weird thing.
All right. I agree with something there.
Okay, hey, all right, 1 point me. They're like very inconsistent in how they're shooting this episode specifically. Like they did some shakiness, they did like stills, they did like the upside down shot and stuff like that. I feel like they're like trying too hard to do stuff where I'm like, you don't need to do that. So it's like it's just been bugging me a lot.
Yeah,
the way they're shooting it.
So I was talking to Mick this morning because we hang out outside of the podcast too, you know. But there was this.
You guys go to the same church.
Yeah, we hang out. Yeah, we hang out.
Okay,
Congratulations.
all right.
But so when he's in the warehouse, when he's getting like there's a locker place where he finds a duffel bag. So there's a shot where remind me of the guy's name in the
Steven.
Conchu.
No, Conchu.
Okay.
So Conchu shows up, right? And he's like all scared and they're doing all the lights thing.
Yeah.
And then he like appears in front of him and then they do this weird thing where it's like he goes, and the
Freeze
light
frame.
turns on him and it freezes
Yeah.
him.
So
And then it like freezes for like 3 seconds and then it's him running out. I'm like,
that's the
why
problem.
do they do that?
See, that's the problem. Actually, I like the start of that scene.
Yeah.
I actually thought the sound design was really good because they're like,
and all the lights turning off, yeah.
dum, dum, like you feel that weight and you're like, oh, it's kind of scary. Like as an adult, I'm like, oh, that's kind
And
of
you
crazy.
see Conchu and then you don't see him and you're like, where is
See, I
he
was
at?
like,
Yeah.
that's what I was saying. I was like, wouldn't that be nice if he was in like a hallway? And I was like, oh, that's the shot. That's what I was saying. That would be better. And he looks better in low light situations. Then all of a sudden, boom, they're like flashing the lights and then he's like,
Yeah, and it
like
freezes.
they turned on a flashlight. They forgot to turn off the flash on the camera, and he's like,
And then there should have been a
it was-
voiceover. It was in this moment when he realized.
So I guess you're wondering how I got
yeah,
here.
it looked really cheesy. It was super cheesy. I was like, why are they doing this?
It was a weird. I looked over at Melissa and I was
It's
like,
so
"That's weird that they
yeah.
decided to do that."
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's probably the only thing I didn't like about this episode. I actually thought my Wi-Fi, like my internet froze. Because
Yeah, it's stupid.
Disney Plus does that sometimes where it'll just like freeze and like I
Yeah.
hear them talking. I'm like, okay, it'll catch up. But yeah, and that time I was like, oh, I guess it kind of froze there for a second. But no, it was intentional. I think that's the only thing that I didn't like
Really? Okay.
about that. Everything else, I really enjoyed this episode. I really liked getting more backstory about the bad guy. I really like Steven. Like he's becoming like a character that I really enjoy and like. Like I like when he first shows up in the reflection, he's like, oh, there he is. Okay. Like I just like his character and his interaction that he has with what Mark Spector? Is
Mark
that
Spector.
Yeah. So I like the kind of like their back and forth was cool. And I like his wife also was an interesting introduction to the relationship. But yeah, I really like this episode a lot, actually.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with Josh. I think the only thing that was weird was that one shot, which I think is like, it's kind of an homage to like the older, I don't know, 80s horror films where they've done similar shots like that. It still was weird to me, but I think that's what they were going for. But yeah, I'm like lapping up everything with this episode. I think it was great. You got a more inside look into the cult from
that's
Ethan
cool.
Hawke,
Yeah.
his character. It looks like they were watching like Discovery Channel stuff in the background with hummingbirds
and stuff. Yeah.
But I like that just kind of creepy cult. Anytime you put a cult in a TV show, I think it just works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love the.
It just
I love
works.
Colts.
I love Colts.
I just buy into it so easily.
I brought up Lost last time, and I kind of got Lost vibes again when they're like just kind of watching like just random nature things. Like if you remember, I can't remember what season it was, but there's like the observatory, and it's like Jacob. There's the stuff about Jacob, and it's just random images kind of flashing. I kind of got that kind of sense where they're kind of like you can tell they're kind of like brainwashed, like just something's off. You know,
even just like the gathering of like mindless kind of people like that, it's very much like the others, or the people that are with Jacob and Lost. But that's interesting. I didn't really think about that at first.
Yeah, I don't see it. I disagree.
So
Just not mention Lost.
disagree about
you go,
people
just
watching a show. Yeah, okay.
Before you go, John, I'll just say the other scene that really bugged me / took me out of it was the moment where he got into his suit and he was like,
And he was goofy moon guy.
so that was okay because it's like, you understand it's Steven. He's
Right.
never fought anyone really. He's not a warrior of sorts. Like, he's not military. So he's like, it's just the
Float
part,
like a butterfly,
that
sing like a bee,
and like,
Steven with a V. That one.
Like, why? Really? You think in the heat of the moment he's going to think to rhyme a little like, anyway, that actually didn't bug me the most. Actually, the fight it felt so bad for me. It felt really cheap. And I was just like, I mean, like, fighting an invisible, this is the actual situation, right? Only he can see this monster, and they have to fight an invisible, like, dog thing, right?
Yeah.
But, like, I just felt bad when it looked like when he, like, gets lifted and, like, put on the car and, like, choked, and it's like, it just didn't feel right for me. Like, it felt really, like, lower end. It just didn't feel good. I was kind of just like, this looks so weird.
They're like, we don't have the budget to put in the actual.
That's what it felt like. It felt like
thing.
low
So
budget.
let's just we'll throw in little scenes here that are finished, but then the rest of it, you just pretend you're fighting something.
Yeah. So I mean that was the only other scene that I was really bugged by. But I mean I get why they did it, but I'm just like it could have been done better. I think. But I actually did like the whole like put on your suit, and he's like, okay, I'll put on a suit, and he like literally like imagined a suit. So that was cool. Like I was all right with that. I bet people lap that up, love that crap. They're like, oh, it's so funny. He made his own suit. Get it? You know what I mean? And then the lady on the side's like, oh, he's just a fancy drunk, you know, and like, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of jokes and stuff like that. And, you know, I just thought the fight was a little awkward. That's all.
I've actually heard some complaints from like more diehard Moon guy
Moon
fans.
Moon fans.
Because the Mr. Knight character who has like the suit, in the comics, he's much more like a cool guy. But I think the reason why they changed it is because just to have like a
bigger contrast.
Yeah, a contrast between how, you know, the cool and collected Mark Spector is to the kind of bumbling Steven. Me, who hasn't really read that many Moon Knight comics, it doesn't really bother me. I think it makes sense for them to do that. So for me, it worked. But yeah, I don't know. I understand what you're saying about the choreography. There really wasn't much. I mean, there was like a punch and then some invisible fighting, which I don't know. As far as like interesting fight scenes go, that doesn't really, doesn't really get there for me.
Yeah, I had the same thought you had, Corey. Actually, I was like, I didn't love that because it was like it looked like they were just trying to save money on budget. Like, we'll make him invisible and kind of have him throw him around. And I understand what they're trying to like get across is like, oh, this is invisible, only he can see him. But like you could have done that in a different way to kind of get that point across. I mean, you kind of already got it across when he comes through the door in the first place, where Layla doesn't see.
And he's like, Jackal.
Right. So it's like you've already kind of established that. So, it wasn't my favorite.
I think what was missing from the scene is some more visual clues. And so because it was only the guys getting thrown around and hit and them just moving, I wish like he would have damaged the car and like smashed some of it, and you see the car smash, so you get more feel of
like more environmental, destruction
environmental
stuff.
effects.
They did it when he was running away, on the
yes.
glass. But
they skimped out on it, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
What was weird too, because So that scene, they don't really show what's going on, like they're fighting in the imaginary thing. But then when he turns into Moonknight and he's running on the roof, which was a cool scene, like they show like the thing chasing him. So they're actually showing, you know, so it's just kind of like,
it's because it's just
It was
him.
only
right.
him. Yeah.
right. But like from the, you're still kind of
that's-
seeing it from the, it's like, well, why does that change if there's people around? Because we already know that only he can see it. Like
Yeah.
that, it was the same thing. I thought that scene was cool though, and how he kills the thing was awesome. How it just kind of
That's what I
lays
said.
it on the spike.
Like me and Bree, we were watching and I was like, man, this just doesn't feel great. And then like as the fight progressed, I was like, and that's how it should be. Like that was sick. And obviously it was Steven Spector and he was fumbling around and he's not going to be epic and awesome. But I really like how they finished that series of fight where they skewered him on the top, and that was dope. And then the way that they kind of handled that, oh, so this is what it's like to be on the other side and watch someone else control the body. Oh, and like have that like emotional, like they're actually like starting to like connect on a way that like, I understand this now. I mean, he's still super confused and he doesn't know how he can justify some of the things that he does, but Steven's understanding a little bit more. You can see like how scared he is. And so I think that's really cool. So I think they finished it off on a good note, kind of having him in Egypt. That was cool.
Yeah. For me, it was the whole episode was kind of like on par with the first one. Like I said, there were a lot of things that I was like, oh, that was cool. And then
So you love the episode because you love the first one.
I think it's good, but again,
won't
just
continue
not
watching it.
excited.
it's the same. It's the same thing. Like
Egypt.
It's not something that I'm super stoked to like. Oh, I can't wait for the next episode. One of the things that I did find myself getting a little annoyed with was I felt like a ton of times they did the back and forth. I know what they're trying to do. You need to establish that, but the back and forth between Mark and Steven.
Okay.
I felt like they were just doing the same thing over and over again where he's like, give me control. And he's like, no, you know, and after a while, the first episode, Oscar Isaac's Steven voice didn't bother me, but in the second episode, it became like, it more grated on me more, like the whininess of it. And I know
It's
you
supposed
got
to
to have,
be.
it's supposed to
It's
be,
supposed to be,
but
yeah.
to me, after a while, I was like, okay, like just give him the suit. I want to see the other guy, you know? And I don't think that's the intention of it. You want to like feel bad for Steven. You don't want to be like annoyed by him. So I guess I'm on that side of it where I'm more annoyed with Steven than I'm like feeling bad for him. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It's
you're
more
a
like,
bully, is what you're saying.
yeah, probably. It's more like, hey, give me more of Mark. Like, I want to see more Mark because I'm getting a little tired of
So you
Steven.
don't like that push-pull aspect of this.
I liked it at the beginning. I just felt like kept like they
We're
were
only
still
2
doing the same
episodes
thing,
in.
right?
It's still
But
the
like
beginning.
right, but it just
I
felt
think
like
it was
the same thing.
it was like that because they wanted to establish that it was like a big struggle between the two. That
Yeah.
it was
Well-
like a big effort for Mark to like take over and shut Steven up. Because I think where the last shot of this episode leaves us, I think we are going to be with Mark maybe for a while.
Hope so.
I think so.
This episode had the fake FBI come in, right? That was
Yeah.
sorry, episodes of
what
Cops.
else?
Okay, so I like that aspect of actually when they were in the apartment and Layla was there and he was basically just like, I'm so desperate, like I need someone to help me, and he's just spilling all this information. He's like, and Mark's like, don't do that.
Don't tell her, you're gonna kill her.
The whole reason why I'm doing this is to protect her, and it's like I think that conveyed the right like amount of like emotions and the severity of it, and like you get to learn more about Mark. Even though it was Steven's scene, you get to learn way more about the history of Mark and what he's been doing through that one scene. I thought that was really creative, and I thought that was really good. I thought it was well done.
Yeah, and I like the story development of like his relationship with Khonshu, of like, oh, he's basically holding him like ransom almost, like, hey, I'm threatening.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do this for me, I'm going to take over your wife.
Right.
Kind of a thing. I like that aspect of it because you're like, he's not the good guy in this situation, right? Khonshu's just like he's using him, so he's not really the good guy. And I also like kind of like the revelation that I forget who the bad guy's name is, Ethan Hawke, that he's like, oh, I was his avatar before, but now I'm whatever the crocodile lady,
Yeah.
God. Yeah, Moonra, no. That he's like, now I'm her avatar kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I did like that conversation that he has with Steven about, basically it's like Minority Report. Like he's a precog.
Right.
They're going to catch people before they actually do the crime. And it's not like a groundbreaking idea of like that we've never seen before, but I thought it was interesting to kind of have that kind of philosophical idea of like, well, we're going to stop people before they do the bad thing. And is that really right and justified? Right. So I thought that was interesting development.
That was my favorite part of the episode was that conversation that Ethan Hawke has with Steven. And I think that was the best part of Steven's arc is when he brings up, he's like, killing babies. Like,
that's where I draw the lines. Killing babies.
Like
I'm not
that,
in the business of killing babies.
That aspect, I was like, that was really good.
That was great. That was great.
And I felt like he was more, like he was standing up for himself.
But I will say that there are moments where he's in a more panic state, and then that's where it's going to go higher, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to get more annoyed.
Yeah.
But in that state, he was a little bit more cool, calm, collected a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, I think that he might progress to more of that kind of temperament as time goes on because he's going to experience all these things and he's going to gain confidence. And so I think he might get less annoying, just to kind of help you out, hopefully.
I don't think so. No. So
so it's like they've got these celestials in the MCU and they've got all these crazy beings, right?
Yeah.
And they got Infinity Stone.
You can't think about it too much.
And then they got the Eternals. Well, they are the Celestials, right? But then they've got straight up Egyptian gods.
Yeah.
And it's just this like bird.
Thor's
skeleton
did
guy.
he get dusted? When Thanos snapped, did any of these gods?
Mark did not get dusted.
No, the gods.
Oh.
Did any of them? Are they outside of what Thanos can do?
Yeah, I don't know. See, that's the thing. What's the definition of a god? Like, it's so weird because like Thor is technically a god and so is Odin. And it's like, these guys just got the short end of the stick because they can't even do anything. All they can do is blow, wind and stuff like that. As
they need
gods.
to use an avatar.
They're just cheap gods, I think, is the Egyptian gods. Like, that's the thing. And so maybe we're talking about different tiers of gods. Maybe that's what it is, and that's why I'm bugged. But like when you call him a god, I expect it to be more spiritual and like more, I don't know, powerful and like stuff. Like, I don't know. It just seems like, I mean, it's cool to be able to make an avatar, but like, I'm interested to see.
Well, I think
kind of
the
what else he
other,
can do.
so the god, the bad goddess or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause
obviously,
she's
I think
not
she's
around.
going to be powerful once she's resurrected. So I think now she doesn't have powers because she's dead or she's, in a tomb somewhere. So that's why they have to find her. But it is, I mean,
I just don't like how real he is. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't like how real of a skeleton boy he is. He's just a skeleton
that's how he looks
guy.
in the comics.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, it's so, I don't know, it just feels weird when you call it an Egyptian god and he's just like, just a homie, It's interesting.
I mean, I feel like that's the interpretation of most Egyptian gods, though. Like
Skeleton homie boys.
Yeah,
Skeleton
Anubis is
is just
a
a homie.
guy with a jackal head. Like,
He's a god, though.
nothing special about him.
What do you mean?
That's Egyptian gods. That's how they.
Nothing
that's how.
special. You're a god.
Yeah, but take it up with the Egyptians,
I just
bro.
feel bad, man.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
think
so weird.
They're the ones that made him that way. You know what I mean?
He's not some dude who just goes home to his not his parents. Yeah, he's a loser. He goes to his home with his parents.
Well, they did say Khonshu was like kind of the outcast of all the gods. So
Well, maybe he's a little bit different than the other.
maybe he's just wearing a crow mask. Like it's actually
It's kind of
a
weird.
guy with glasses and a mustache.
That hall scene was kind of weird because you get to see up in his nose and his orifices. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Little dangly things in his skull.
Yeah.
I liked the crescent dart things that he has. I think that's a cool visualization.
Like the batarangs? Or what are you talking about?
Moonarangs. Yeah, those
Yeah.
things. I think they're called crescent darts.
Darts. That's such an interesting name. Okay.
why would they
Maybe
call
I'm
them
wrong,
darts?
but I don't know.
No, they just call them crescents.
Crescents.
That's what they are.
Crescent blades.
Crescents. I
Those
like.
are cool.
I like seeing those in live action, and it looked like he had like an
So he has
unlimited
infinite?
amount.
Yeah, it looks like he has infinite. Just pop, pop, pop,
Yeah,
pop.
which is I liked it, and that just goes into the last scene where he kills the jackal at the end. Yeah, I don't know. I think out of all the Marvel shows, I'm enjoying this one the most.
I would agree.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's the most intriguing. I would say WandaVision's probably a close second to like the mystery aspect of it. But in terms of just like finding out like who Mark Spector is and like what happened, like how he ended up being the Avatar, and just the multiple personality disorder aspect of the show to me is just very interesting. So
Wait for She-Hulk. That's going to be your favorite show.
yeah, maybe.
Put it down.
But yeah, so I've been really enjoying the show, and I'm excited to see.
I think the
third one.
I think the
Third
story.
episode.
I think the story is interesting. I think the whole multiple personalities and an avatar and that aspect of that's cool. The only thing that kind of bugs me with it is it feels like ultra small scale, and this is a TV show, and most of them do feel like that very small scale, but it's like very like detached from like the main MCU storyline, where it's like its own little like biome, you know, it just exists by itself, and so for me it just feels a little off the normal MCU kind of stuff. So
Samuel L.
it's not a
Jackson
bad thing.
will show up in episode 4 and be like, I'm putting a team together.
I'm a scroll. Oh,
Would you rather it be like more like, I guess, bigger scale and more connected to
yeah,
like?
I would like that personally, just because when you have something in the same universe and on the same planet in the same existence, I mean, I would hope that there would be some linking aspects. I mean, obviously there probably is. I'm sure if you watched an Easter egg analysis of the episodes, I'm sure there's connecting tissue, but
I feel like
I want it to be a little more obvious.
I feel like you probably think the opposite, though, right? You're probably more.
He doesn't care.
I honestly,
he
for
likes it, but he
me,
doesn't like it. Yeah.
for me, there's an element where I'm like, I'm done trying to find plot holes, because to me it's like, if it's a connected universe, like if I'm constantly thinking about, well, where these other people fit in,
Nice.
it's never going to make sense.
Marvel won. They beat you.
No, I mean, I'm still
They've
gonna
broken you down.
I'm still gonna point it out, because to me it's like it doesn't make sense. But I think we've talked about this with the other shows, like the Loki shows, all this kind of stuff. It's like it's become so big that now nothing is gonna make sense. Like, so for me, it's kind of like, I'd rather them just like, hey, if you're gonna tell me a story, tell me a story about this character without having to bring in a bunch of other like random characters, or be like, you know, when a kid drops the one-liner, it's like, when Steve Rogers died, I was really sad, you know? And it's just like, as a character's walking by, it's like, oh, hey, they mentioned Steve Rogers. Yeah. You know, so it's just kind of like...
See, I'd rather have smart connections,
Right.
like secondary, tertiary things that you're not really paying attention to, but if you look a little bit closer. But I wish they would just do one or the other. Like that's I want them to hard commit to... Yes, we are going to involve everything, or no, it's going to be its own thing. If it's a TV show, it's its own thing. But it's like, obviously, the TV shows have been way different. Like, WandaVision is going to be basically connected directly to Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah. Well, even the
And,
What If show is
What
completely
If?
connected to it.
See,
that's weird.
That's
So-
weird, too, yeah.
One thing
They
that
might
is
connect at the end
interesting
of this series. for sure.
is that Oscar Isaac said that he didn't sign. He's like, normally when you sign with Disney to be a superhero, you basically sign like a ton of other, like, oh, you have to be in this movie. And he's like, I've only signed up for this. Like, this was the only contract. So this might not be because he didn't want to do that. They might just keep this isolated to its own story and not have it connected, which would be kind of interesting to not be like, oh, there's just a kind of series with him.
Which is too bad, because I actually like him. Yeah. Out of all the new heroes that we've been introduced for phase, what are we in, phase 4 or 5? I don't know what it is. 4? Like, whatever the Avengers 2 is, or whatever the next set of the young Avengers are, this guy is my favorite candidate.
Yeah, I mean, I would.
Besides Spider-Man, I like Spider-Man.
I would love to see,
but new characters
like him go on to more stuff and be in movies or whatever. But in terms of like the bigger MCU, I feel like there hasn't really been anything like to, I guess, earn that level of like it needs to be connected to the bigger MCU world. I think the story that they're telling, at least so far, it suits it for just being like on its own, if that makes sense.
I think when it comes to like an Egyptian god, like when it comes to the snap and stuff like that, you know, they don't have to get involved. They probably don't give a crap. Yeah. So it's like they kind of dodge some of those big world-changing events.
If anything,
kind of like the Eternals are dodging the snap as well.
Yeah, I would say if anything, like maybe like more direct things with the Eternals, because they were known as like Egyptian gods at some point.
Man down.
Sorry. So maybe connected that way. I mean, that wouldn't be my first choice because I wasn't really a fan of the Eternals. But I think so far I'm not feeling like they're missing out on a bigger connection there. But who knows? I mean, maybe at the end of the series it'll be giant, and we'll have.
Spider-Man.
I don't think they need anything crazy like that. I don't think they need some insane like, oh my gosh, dude, you never saw that coming.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to depend on other characters. It's just nice to know that it's connected.
It'll depend on how powerful the villain is and what they're trying to stop. Because if it becomes like she's going to be able to kill everybody, and even before that, then involves the Eternals, that then involves the Avengers, because she could technically kill Thor and kill a bunch of people because they've done, according to her, bad things.
Yeah.
So if they go that big where she's actually resurrected and about to do that, and they don't have anything going on, then to me it's just like that's kind of the issue with the Eternals too. It's like a massive being has been living in the earth and starts to come out of the earth, and no Avengers are monitoring anything like that. Like that to me was when it becomes that big of a thing, like the whole world is going to explode and Captain Marvel doesn't show up or anybody like that doesn't come in.
She was off planet. Bro.
It didn't last that long. To be fair, it didn't last very long for when he came up.
But the news is talking about it, and then you think if the news is talking about it, the amount of technologies that Iron Man has and the Avengers Tower and all that they're monitoring.
Isn't Iron Man dead in this one?
But like he's left all his stuff.
Spoilers.
Like Shield,
stuff's still running.
The Avengers are still around.
That Spider-Man.
That whole thing was.
I left the lights on.
That whole thing was stupid for so many reasons.
But that's where I'm just saying, like, it depends on how big it gets. If it's contained smaller, then I have no problem with it. But if it gets really big, then I have to be like, well, where are these other guys? Because you've created this universe that's all connected.
And I think we're kind of full circling back to that one talk when we had where we're like, well, when is it too much?
Yeah.
And, when is it too complicated? And
they're just going to end up saying it's different variants in a different universe. Like now they can do that. They can be like, Moon Knight's not in the MCU universe. They could totally do that because has there been anything that's said it's in?
There's the billboard on the bus I saw says it's talking about reuniting loved ones. Whatever the program is after the snap or whatever.
Okay.
So it's set, but because they were trying
Falcon and Winter Soldier,
they were trying to figure out when it was set. And they're like, it's set between these years because this program is started.
His passport, the fake passport for Mark Spector for America, is actually issued during the snap, and so that's when he kind of took advantage of that opportunity. So it's kind of weird.
Yes,
so it is kind of linked. But.
So I'm the opposite of you, Corey. I like that it's self-contained.
Well, no, that's fine. I'm just concerned about it. Like, I'm just like, if the problem gets too big, what's your excuse?
Right.
It starts to not make sense at all. Because if you're like a world defender and you're like actually defending this world of existence, like, and its life, like all the people on it, like, bro, you should have all hands on deck.
Yeah.
You can time travel now.
But it just depends on how big they get.
Yeah.
If it's small town, just little, Guernsey, stuff. It's not a big deal. You're in my ends. I can't do British accent. But
that was perfect.
No, it was not.
That was supposed to be a British accent.
But if they keep it they're already going to Egypt.
Yeah.
And then whatever happens with this Crocodile Dundee girl, we don't know what's going to happen.
So what connection makes the most sense for the MCU in this show? Like, what do you guys like?
I mean, I would say
who shows up?
I don't think anyone's showing up. I agree
Ant-Man.
with you. I hope that it just stays.
Ant-Man's OP, dude.
It's his buddy, the guy that's always getting the rumors from all the Mexican cleaning ladies.
Oh, what's his name? Mark.
I don't know what his name is.
What's it?
I don't remember what his name is.
Anyway.
No, I'm not. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think if anything is connected, it'll probably be something with Eternals. But yeah, I'm like you. I'm fine with it being just Moon Knight and him doing his thing. And I mean, that is part of the comics too, where big things happen all the time, and it's just that one character having to deal with it. I mean, that's how the comics work. So there is that level of like you have to kind of accept how things are in the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
where
I'm okay with it, and I actually prefer it that way, where it's just secluded on its own. I'm just shedding a light and just bringing it up as a subject to be like, are you guys concerned about that? Because as of right now, most of them are actually, all of them are interwoven into the main story.
Yeah, every single one's had a connection.
Like, yeah. But we're talking about gods, and if the problem is big enough, that's where I would be concerned.
Sure,
that's all. That's all.
And I think it's a little different with comic books than it is when you've made, because you can have individual runs in comic books and then have a crossover event. Like that happens all the time. Where it's like, oh, these characters are kind of isolated. This is their own story, whether it's Batman, and then Dick Grayson comes in, Nightwing comes in to crossover event, or Superman comes in for certain things. But I feel like the MCU, their whole mantra was everything is connected. All these movies, you have to watch all these movies because that's going to inform the next movie. So they've made it to a point,
or at least the end credits.
you can't then say, oh no, it's not connected, right? Whereas a comic book is like, they're not saying like, hey, this Batman, and yes, everything's connected. Get this one to then see what's happening to Superman a year from now. MCU's made it to be like, these movies are all, and these TV shows are all connected. Everything's canon.
Yeah.
And so what that creates is then these moments where it's like,
yes, but that is a big way that comics work. With like the New 52, everything was connected. The Batman in New 52 was like the same continuity as the Superman and the Wonder Woman. I mean, honestly, any problem that Batman has in Gotham, Superman could fly over and just fix it in, 10 seconds. Yeah. I'm saying that like that is like ingrained in how comics work, how superheroes work. Like that's just one of the things where for me, I've just kind of let it go and just
Marvel's gotten to you, like Josh said.
I will say the only difference between not the only, but a difference between DC and MCU in this current state is that MCU has set it up to be just a way larger and way more insane scale. So it's an issue of scale. Like Batman's problems aren't nearly as crazy as like the destruction of the universe, you know what I mean? Or half the population of the universe. Like that's what I'm saying. It's a scalability issue here. That's all I'm saying. And so like, sure, Superman could come over and like help fix him, like this guy not set off a bomb in Gotham. That's true, but the scale is so much smaller compared to like the Eternals and the freaking Earth exploding from the inside because it's a giant eternal guy, whatever.
And I'll give you a perfect example though. The difference is,
what do you mean? No.
The difference is
true. They're different.
The difference is with this is, let's take a perfect example with DC. The Joker comes out, which is the Joaquin Phoenix, just a story about the Joker. There's nothing. There's nothing that connects that to anything else. Any other Batman is just a standalone movie that they're doing a story. In the MCU, that doesn't exist because they've said everything connects. So if they have a movie like an Ant-Man movie, it takes place in the universe that they're all creating. So that just handcuffs it to everything else. So there's a difference between Robert Pattinson Batman movie that can be a solo 3 trilogy movie that doesn't have to connect anything else. Whereas the MCU, every show now is saddled with the implications of the snap, implications with where's Thor, where's Captain America. If this takes place in the United States or in New York or wherever they're at, where are these other characters? That's where the difference is. Whereas there's a single run of comics or a single run of DC movies that are just solely focused on Robert Pattinson's Batman versus a show in the MCU carries the whole title of the MCU and all its catalog. That's kind of the difference.
Go ahead, Chip.
No one said that's not the case. Mick was just saying the problem also exists in the comic world. That's all Mick said.
Yeah, I guess.
And it's true because you can have the same situation. Example, Brainiac can come to Earth and want to enslave all of Earth. That's happening in the same universe as Batman's universe. So it's the same scale, an Earth, global, universal space issue. You know what I mean? And it's happening in the same space as Batman beating up the Joker. That's just the point. That it's an issue in the comics and it's an issue in the shows. On the TV. That's all we're saying.
My big difference was that just the TV show and the movies, they've just more often than not it happens. Like it's a more rare case in the comic books. It's like, you know, they do a whole run and then they do a special thing.
Yeah.
Versus it's like 80% of the time they have crossover in the shows and stuff like that.
Or it's a different world, or it's a different character. So
I'm
like
just saying it's expected now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they've made it a very strong expectation.
Yeah, in comics they have different writers, different worlds, different, like they're not the same storyline. That's what I'm saying.
It depends on the comic.
I know, but what I'm saying is the MCU doesn't have something that's separate from what the MCU is. There's no option to be like, this is completely separate from the MCU, because they've said every movie and every TV show. That's what I'm saying, where it's the difference. In comic books, you have different writers that come in and be like, there's a completely different story. You don't need to worry about Superman. Fine. That's what I'm saying. The problem with the MCU is it's handcuffed itself and saddled itself to everything, because they've said you need to watch everything because it's all interlinked. And that, I think that's a problem for the MCU.
What?
I don't think there's any disagreement.
We're not disagreeing with you at all. We're just saying the issue.
We're not disagreeing.
The issue that you're pointing out.
We're just voicing our opinion.
Yeah, we're saying the issue you're pointing out is something that exists in comics as well. That's all we're saying.
Right. Yeah. But what I said was it's not a big deal because comic books have already done that, and there's different ones. What I said was the MCU, the problem is there's no option to do something separate. That's all I'm saying. Like, you guys are saying that I'm saying something different. I'm saying no. The difference is MCU.
No, I'm not saying anything.
Anyway, I think that I think just with Moon Knight specifically, it'll be interesting to see how it ends in this series, because what, 6 episodes or something like that.
I think 6.
Yeah,
probably.
so
6 or 7.
I mean, awesome. I mean, hey, we're going to Egypt. We're going to see Egypt. I'm really excited about that. That'll be really exciting. We get some sarcophagi in here.
Sarcophagus.
Yeah, we'll see.
I wonder.
Some,
do you think we'll have a flashback of Mark?
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. Yeah,
getting the beetle and
that'd be cool
stuff.
Or even before that, I would love to see like him becoming, the baton being passed on to him, and I just want to know exactly how it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with the two different, like, he was on the phone and like talking to his mom, but he never actually talks to his mom.
Like his mom's dead.
Yeah. Or it's just a memory of Mark's mom. You know what I mean? Like, who's the primary in this situation? Who's the facade? I want to know that. I haven't read the comics, so I don't know. So that's what's exciting. Slate. That's what's exciting about this. That is a good point that I really do enjoy about this series, is that I don't know. I don't know all the answers, so that'll be fun to discover them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll probably get more answers next week with episode 3. So, that was our discussion on episode 2 of Moon Knight.
And real quick, we did pick a winner for the poster contest. Real quick. Congratulations to Brandon Hill 07. He was randomly selected, and he gets the poster. So enjoy your poster, Brandon.
Very cool poster.
Thank you for supporting us, and everyone else who entered. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
We'll do another giveaway sometime.
And thank you, Crystal, for giving us the print.
Thank you, Crystal.
Being
Very
willing
cool
to do that.
from Crystal.
And I think you guys sent it out, right?
It'll be in the mail tomorrow.
Nice.
I just wanted to acknowledge they're sending it out too.
That I went to.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Brandon. You'll get it, Brandon. Don't worry. But that'll do it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share the episode, talk about it with your friends, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Later.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.